Casual Birder podcast, a weekly podcast for people interested in the birds they find around them. I'm Susie Buttress. As a casual birder, I look for opportunities to watch birds as I go about my daily tasks. Join me each week as I talk about the various birds I've seen, or speak with others about their experiences. This week, I met with Martin Austwick, host of the Song by Song podcast, for a bird walk in London's Regent's Park. Martin describes himself as a casual birder, and we had a lovely stroll just noticing the birds that were around. Along the way, I heard about some of the birds that Martin has seen on his travels around the world. So I'm here in Regent's Park with my guest this week, Martin Austwick. Welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, thanks for having me.
We're going to do a bird walk. It is a windy day, so there will be some wind noise. We'll try and protect where we can. Before we start off, Martin, do you want to tell me a little bit about what sort of birder you are?
Oh, I'm a very casual birder. I like birds, but I'm very, very bad at identifying them. I'm even worse at identifying them by the sound they make.
Okay.
I can identify some birds, but not that many. So like my wife always teases me for being a bad birder.
There's no such thing as a bad birder. Sorry, Helen. I think just having an enthusiasm and enjoying looking at the birds is perfectly valid. So
yeah, that's definitely me, I think. And I sort of like the kind of big hitter birds, like big like birds of prey and penguins and sort of unusual birds. Although I was thinking on the way down that I don't think of myself as someone who particularly likes waterfowl, but in London I really do, because you come to Regent's Park or you go to St James's Park, and there's actually like a ton of really interesting. There were pelicans. There's pelicans in St James's Park at the moment.
That's right.
They're really terrifying. They're huge.
Yes, I understand that they've been there. They are a feature of St James's Park, and that they were gifted to the Queen, I guess.
Oh, right, okay.
They've been there quite some time. I don't know how many years, but they're definitely a feature of St James's Park.
Well, I thought I hadn't seen them all year round. I assume they like migrated, but maybe that's not right.
Yeah.
I only saw them in like summer. Maybe they're just sort of in a different part of the park in different seasons. I don't know.
Yeah. So just before we start the walk, some Greylag Goose just flying past.
Oh yeah.
Just going to
like on the vodka bottle, Grey Goose.
Oh,
that's the one on the vodka bottle, isn't it?
Yes, I think you're right.
And are these Canada geese? These ones with the black heads and the. I remember those from when I was a kid, and there was a load of those used to be in the field behind the room I lived in college, and they would wake me up at like 7 a.m. like flying in a big flock over the. It's quite a nice way to wake up, actually.
So I was just going to just talk about the birds that we can see at the moment. You mentioned about waterfowl being a little bit boring, and
well, it's exciting to see them in London. That's the thing. I think I wouldn't. It feels like I'm being very negative. I wouldn't travel for them, but in London, when you're just walking through a park and you see all of these different birds, it's quite cool. So these ones are. So I was telling you my mnemonic earlier for telling a coot from a moorhen, because they look very similar. One's got a red head and this one has got a white head. And my friend Hilary Jackson told me this mnemonic, which I think is more confusing, but it's like a moorhen has got the letter R in it, so it's got red head. If a coot had a letter R on it, it would be a carrot. I don't know if that helps. You just said it's easy to remember that they have a white head, but I can't remember. The mnemonic actually helped me, even though it's much more complicated.
If that were, maybe that whole thing about going through the whole
process.
Where's the R?
Yeah, where's the R?
Yeah. Carrot. So, must be a coot.
So and they've got you were talking about the cute little feet they've got, which are almost like ferns. They're not like just a webbing, are they? They're
no,
sort of,
that's right.
Like fractal feet.
Yeah.
Oh, these Canada geese think they're about to get fed.
I know.
Hello.
They're going to be sorely disappointed.
Yeah, right.
So if we wander on, sorry, I spot a couple of other birds. I mean, it's not really about naming the birds.
Yeah.
It's just enjoying what we're seeing.
Is that I'm going to guess that's a tern.
It's interesting you say that.
Oh, it's just a seagull.
Well, there's no such thing as just a seagull. And gulls are actually notoriously difficult. For me, I find them quite difficult. They generally take 4 years to get to their adult plumage,
right?
And so they have so many different stages in between. Like there's a juvenile just there.
Ah, right.
That could be a juvenile herring gull, but I think it's. Oh no, it's got yellow feet. It's a juvenile, lesser black-backed gull.
Oh.
Unless it's a yellow-legged gull, but I think they're less frequent.
Okay.
So what I was going to say was, it's interesting that you say that bird was like a tern.
Yeah, it's got a very pointy beak.
That's right. It's actually a black-headed gull.
Oh, okay.
But it's currently in its winter plumage. It's moved out of its breeding plumage.
Okay.
And in the summer, or in the breeding season, it has a chocolate brown head.
Oh, okay.
But in the winter, that all changes, and it just has that little black spot behind its eye.
Oh, cool. I'll never remember this stuff. That's the problem. I have such a bad memory for these.
It doesn't really matter. But no, the reason I say it's interesting you call it a tern, and this is without you having heard it, is because I think their calls are very tern-like. So where you get the herring gulls and the blackback gulls and lesser blackbacks have more of a kind of the traditional seaside call.
Yeah.
The black-headed gulls we may hear later on, especially if someone starts throwing bread down, they're quite tern-like. So if you've ever heard terns...
I probably have, but again, I'm very bad with identifying them. Oh, was that one?
Yes.
There we go, hello.
And that is more of a cry or
It's quite high, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas...
Oh, what was it? Oh, it's a crow. I can tell a crow.
Oh, now, let me just talk about these crows.
They're fighting the heron.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that heron looks like it's going to take on... This is a big fight. There's a ton of crows there.
Yes, so there are, I would say, about 20 crows here?
Yeah. Is that a murder of crows?
I reckon it could be.
I mean, I think they're gonna try and murder that heron, but the heron is really
that heron
up at their full height.
I don't think I've ever seen a heron go for bread before, so that is really interesting.
It must be hungry.
Well, opportunistic. It's like, if there's something to eat, I'll eat it.
I love the way they move. The herons they're so slow.
See if I can get a photograph.
Oh, so it's all happening. The bread's coming in.
Yeah.
Oh, the pigeons have moved in there. That's bad. There's a ton of pigeons. Oh, but there's a second bread source which is distracting the pigeons. Now the heron is nothing's happening with the heron now. It's just sort of watching stalker-like. That's a white dove there.
Yes, it came up to me earlier to be fed, and
what was that?
Did it peck you?
That pigeon was trying to bite my feet. All my prejudices about pigeons are confirmed. Get lost, pigeon. Go away. There's a lot of birds happening now. There's Canada geese and the heron. It's a real big bird party.
There are a lot of Canada geese. And I think we're going
Go away, pigeon.
I think we're going to move along.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I think we're going to get caught up.
Yeah, it's going to be like Hitchcock. So
anyway, so there's a variety of birds here on the lake, and clearly people come and feed them, so there's a reason for them to hang around.
Yeah.
I highly recommend, though, if you do want to feed the birds at your lake,
don't feed them bread.
Well, don't feed them bread is a really good one. But also, don't just throw the stuff down, because all these coots.
Yeah.
All things are great.
They're kind of moving in species by species, aren't they? Like, it's like a gang of coots, there's a gang of crows, a gang of pigeons. Oh wow, that goose is really going for that guy. He's going to lose a finger.
Geese are can be quite aggressive, yeah. And swans. So swans are not a great one to feed either. There's
a lot of if you walk up the canal, there's a lot of ugly, not ugly ducklings, but like big grey swans. I don't know what that's called. Yeah, but they're like swan-sized, but still kind of in the grey.
Yeah, young swans.
Yeah. But they're big young swans.
Yeah. No, they're probably not yet in their adult plumage.
Yeah. They're not white yet.
So anyway, the sun is coming out, so it's turning into a nice day. Lovely.
What have we got? Oh, there's a moorhen. It's got a red head.
Exactly.
It's not a carrot. Now, what's that bird there? It looks like a goose with a very yellow beak.
Which one? Are you looking at that one?
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
Yeah, they're the Greylag Goose.
Oh, okay. Those are the ones we saw before.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. What are the ones that look like they've got a black eye? Because do you know the ones I mean? They have like a big dark eye. Are they widgeons?
We may see some in a minute.
Okay.
So if we do,
I'll hold off.
Is this the one?
Yeah. There's a swan. Do you feel well disposed towards swans?
I think they're very pretty.
Yeah. They're quite aggressive, aren't they?
They can be, yeah. What's really cute about them is that they will hold their wings up in a very arched manner.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's really cool.
I'm not sure if they have young on their back. but when they have their very arched, decorative kind of display, I think they look really attractive.
Yeah.
Especially if they're in a calm lake and it's reflected.
Yeah.
Having them run after you to try and get a bit of bread off you is not so much fun.
Is it true that thing about they can break a man's arm, or is that just sort of...
They're pretty powerful birds. I wouldn't want to chance it. I wouldn't want to find out. And they're
How
big.
would they do it there? Like by stabbing you, or like in an arm wrestle?
I suspect it's probably about the hitting you with their wings. Because
With their wings?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I think you have to be more worried about something like an emu or...
Oh, yeah.
What's that one? There's a cassowary.
Cassowary. Oh, yeah. I read a thing about that. So I read on Twitter about cassowaries, because we saw one in... it was in a park because we've been travelling around. We were in a park in Kuala Lumpur, and they have like all kinds of like fun birds, like hornbills and things. They have a... Do you want to speak? They have a cassowary. And so I looked it up about them killing people, and it's only ever happened once. And it was a story in Australia about these kids. They were both teenagers, or like one was a teenager, one was a bit younger. And they were throwing rocks at this cassowary. The cassowary like kicked the younger kid, and the younger kid ran off. The older kid fell over, and then the cassowary attacked the older kid and killed him. So that's the one time it's happened. When people are being very, very great. Oh, there's a swan coming after us now.
Hey, well, some tips about the cassowary.
So it's only ever happened once, and it was at a time when people were being like these. I mean, they were kids, but they were being very like violent towards this cassowary. So yeah, I think they're probably not. I don't know if they're more dangerous than the swan, but
I think they are. I think they're thought to be more dangerous than swan, and they're quite big birds. I think they can stand up to sort of about 5 foot high.
Yeah. Well, like the emus and the rheas and stuff like that. I mean, those are just big. Oh, hello.
Good morning.
Oh, their necks are so funny. They just twist around, and they can
white colour.
Yeah, it's really white. They can dig right to the bottom of the pond, can't they, with those long necks?
Yes.
What do they eat? Are they eating vegetation or?
Yes.
What were we saying?
Is this goose here the one you were talking about with the dark eye?
Where? Oh yes, that is the one I was talking about. What is that?
An Egyptian goose.
That's an Egyptian goose. I think they're really handsome, aren't they? They look like they're painted.
That's right. Yes.
Hello, ducks.
We don't have food.
Geese.
Bypassers.
I just misspecied these geese. You're very handsome geese, aren't you?
So you can see this is a black-headed gull, but it's not in its full adult plumage yet.
That's really handsome, actually.
So it's got the mottling is really, really pretty. But when they're adults, they'll have red legs and red beaks.
So,
this swan's doing the arching with its wings. I think it's probably a dominance thing to make it. So you can see how fast they swim.
Yeah, they can really move. That's the other thing they say about swans, isn't it? Like their feet are moving really quickly underwater.
Yeah,
and they look very graceful on top.
Their feet as it goes past.
They're not doing much with their feet.
No,
it's
but
just like
really
a little thrust,
powerful,
and
so
then
they will get a thrust, and especially when they're swimming fast.
So that whole kind of thing of like calm on the surface, like paddling underneath, is not quite true, is it?
No, it's just that they look like they're not doing anything to propel themselves, but if you see them close up, you can see they are.
Oh, it's really graceful, isn't it? Oh, here we go. Here's this.
Yes.
Possibly
so if we can get a photograph of this goose. So it's got pink feet. It's kind of like a buff colour on its breast, but it has got a big brown spot, big reddish brown spot on its tummy. Hello. And its head, it's got a slightly cinnamon coloured ring around the neck. Its head is more sort of a mix of pale and brown feathers, but it's got a really striking brown ring around its eye, and it's got quite orange eyes, pink beak, and the back feathers are lovely sort of...
We're talking about it, it's like that.
quite sort of brownish cinnamon feathers, and then a dark brown tail. Quite a mix of colours.
It's really nice.
We've got some, as you can see here, I was mentioning about the juvenile black-headed gull. When they become an adult, you can see they've got bright red legs and bright red beaks, and the juvenile's just gone in the water, so you can't see so much, but it's got less prominent colouring. Although it has got this beautiful mottled brown. Now the coots, they're either welcoming each other or about to fight.
Funny sound.
You can hear, yes, it's a very sort of sharp staccato burst of sound there.
Oh, hello.
They do eat vegetation, and he's proving it now.
Found a leaf, or she? Is that a she or a he? Can you tell?
Well, they're not sexually dimorphic, so you can't tell the difference between them. But I think they can tell, and that's probably the important thing. I was just going to say about this pigeon, its iridescent feathers. In the sunlight, when it was facing us just now, that green was really emerald green. So I know that I know that you're not a big fan of pigeons, but there are elements about them that can be...
See, when I see that, I think of the kind of iridescent colour you get when there's like a slick of oil on the pavement. Because maybe it's just because they're such an urban bird. Like it's kind of iridescent on grey, which is what happens if there's like petrol spilt on the road or something like that. I don't hate pigeons as much as I might be indicating.
So another thing I'd like to point out, and stop me if I'm getting boring here, are the cormorants. Can you see the cormorants on the blue boats there? Is that a bit far
look,
off?
it's there and it's
But there's two of them
out.
there, and they're doing the classic cormorant pose of standing with their wings open to dry them.
Yeah, that's really nice.
And
they've got very long necks, haven't they, cormorants?
They have, and again, they can have them stretched up or pulled into themselves. So when you see cormorants, especially if you see them at the coast, depending on how they're standing, like if they're standing in that classic pose, you absolutely know it's either a cormorant or a shag.
Yeah.
But if they're just hunched, it's actually quite hard to see what they are because they're just like little black birds.
Yeah.
They look small until they move. But they're brilliant at at swimming and diving, and
they seem to be quite common. And when I was about to say in the sea, but that's quite a broad generalisation. But I feel like I've seen lots of cormorants. Like when you go out on a boat trip or something, like you see them just bobbing around. And you can tell them from seagulls because seagulls are much, much brighter.
Yeah.
And they're also quite big birds, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
So you're not going to mistake them for like I don't know what would be bobbing around, but like a little duck or something like that.
So you mentioned that you saw some in Tasmania.
Yeah. Tasmania has this very dramatic basalt rock cliffs on the sort of south side. And they were just sort of sat on the rocks there, like with doing stuff like this, like stretching their wings out. And I don't know if they were like a specific species. You said that like there's a species that has very emerald eyes, but I don't remember. We were a little way away, so I couldn't see.
The ones that we saw in Hobart were very small. Sorry, I've just noticed across the lake there's a magpie chasing a crow. There's obviously some altercation going on there.
Ages-old rivalry.
There you go.
Oh, look at that. Crows are very intelligent birds, aren't they?
Yes, well, magpie's a crow as well. They're all part of the corvid family, yeah. So we saw some beautiful cormorants. I think they're cormorants. They might be shags. So again, it's really difficult to tell some birds apart. I'll have to look at the actual name, but they're a small cormorant-style bird. But they were dark plumage, but had absolutely beautiful emerald eyes, just stunning emerald eyes. I'm not quite sure what colour eyes these ones have. We hardly ever get a chance to see them close up.
You see them quite a lot on the canals. Like I walked, you can walk a long way on canals. I mean, you can walk all the way to Birmingham from London if you want to, and further. But we did a few walks where we did sort of like 15-20 miles, and you see quite a lot of cormorants, swans, and ducks, but cormorants are quite common. But I don't know what colour their eyes are. And I did that thing of going like, it looks like a cormorant, but it could be a grebe or a shag. But then grebes have different head colour, so...
Yeah, grebes are quite different. Another thing that people
I'm not very good at this.
Honestly, it's more the fact of wanting to look. And I recognise we're still at this part where there's the boring birds.
That's some good
potentially.
That's some good. I mean, we saw the Egyptian geese, if that's what they were.
Yeah. Should we carry on round? Because I know there's more...
Is that a seagull over there?
Yeah. Well,
they're big, aren't they?
Gull.
It's a gull, yes. Not all gulls are created equal.
I just kind of try to encourage people not to say seagull.
Yes.
You'll see like these ones here, very, very different sizes. There's an immature herring gull there and the black-headed gull. Very, very different sizes.
So I don't like gulls either because I think it must have been one of those big ones. When I was on a holiday in Ilfracombe when I was a teenager, one pooped directly into my eye. It was horrible. So I don't like seagulls. They're again, like when you get to the seaside, they're very ubiquitous, and so you're looking forward to seeing some birds, and it's little seagulls mussing in, eating your chips.
Yes, I was going to say that they are again very opportunistic, quite aggressive, and big. You forget how big they are. Big birds,
really big birds.
Yeah, herring gulls particularly. We've got some geese just flying across the lake here.
Oh, hello. What is that? Are those the grey geese? No, the Canada geese. Lovely.
So we were able to spot that because we could see...
Oh, hello.
Not sure if that picked up, but they came and landed right near us. They must have thought we've got food.
Yeah.
They're going to get upset now that we haven't got food.
Yeah.
So again, the Canada geese I have described in previous episodes, but they're a brown bird with a white undertail area, pale at the throat area, and then the neck and head is black, but they have this very wide white chin strap. Quite a delicate little beak as well, sort of fairly small when you compare it to, say, a swan, which has got a large sort of chunky beak.
They've got a good old shout in them, haven't they?
And this is these are Canada geese calling right now, so when you can hear them in the background, that's what you're hearing. So we're going to walk along to the ornamental pond. Oh, there's a tufted duck. I just wanted to point out the tufted ducks. So see these 4 ducks here?
And with the very bright eyes.
Yeah, they've got golden coloured eyes, and and the one over there particularly, you can see I think you can see he's got an actual like crest that goes down the back of his head.
Which one? The one on the right?
Well, all of them. I've got them, I think. But the one on the right, I can particularly see if you were to zoom on it.
Let me see if I can get that
aspect of it.
I can't see that well on that one.
But the eye really does stand out.
Yeah, it's really dramatic, isn't it?
Yeah. So they're tufted ducks. So one of the things, when you come to a lake, you think, oh yeah, ducks. But actually, they're not.
There's quite a lot of different.
There are actually a range of birds here.
What's the kind of classic duck? The one with the green head.
The mallard.
Yeah. Oh, is that the mallard's the species? Is it?
Yes.
Oh, I thought mallard meant. Oh no, drake means man duck, doesn't it? Yeah.
When we go around here a little bit further, there's an there's a wildfowl collection area. So they've got some birds there from lots of different areas. Now, what I do know, I came here last week and was able to hear. I didn't see them, but I could hear long-tailed tits. So great tits, blue tits, robin, dunnock, song thrush. So we've got some birds that aren't lake birds that we might see as we go around this way. Do you have a garden?
No, we don't even have a home.
Oh.
We didn't have a garden. Actually, we did have. So we lived in Crystal Palace for 10 years, where we lived in a flat which didn't have any outdoor space, but we would go down to the park. And Crystal Palace Park is actually pretty good for. Well, actually, I tended to go there for the bats, but it's good. It's good for birds as well. I got a photograph somewhere. It's a very blurry photo of a cormorant, tilting its head back and swallowing a fish. I mean, you can't see it because it looks like a few blurred pixels, but it's quite dramatic. So there's some quite nice. And there's pedalers as well, so you can kind of get right out in the lake and follow some birds around. It's quite fun.
Oh, right. Actually, that was one thing I was going to say.
That's some pedalers here, actually.
Maybe later. One thing I was going to say earlier was in some of the Asian countries, the fishermen use cormorants to help them with fishing.
Yes, that's right. Do they tie a string to them or something like that? Yeah.
Just to stop them swallowing the fish.
Yes,
but
right.
They do give them some portion of the fish.
I find I like this because they dive very dramatically, don't they? Cormorants. Do they do the kind of flying diving?
Gannets.
Right.
You may have seen those as well when you've been out.
I'm not doing very well. I'm really blowing my bird credibility.
Not at all.
I tell you what, I do.
But you've noticed that there are birds. That dive dramatically.
Well, actually, so I think the ones that I've noticed do that most dramatically are the pelicans.
Right.
And I don't know if they do it in London because I don't think the lake's deep enough to do a massive dive bomb from. But they get up pretty high. I remember this one Christmas that for reasons a little obscure we ended up having Christmas lunch in St. Petersburg in Florida. And it has this pier, and at the end of the pier there's a restaurant, and we're up on the 4th or 5th floor, eating Christmas lunch with all these Florida pensioners, and you could see the pelicans on our eye line, flying up to our level on this building, and then diving down into the sea. It's amazing.
And I love how the gulls will all find their own fence post to stand on.
Oh yeah.
And
why is that? Do they not like being in the water?
Well, it's just a chance to dry out. I guess they don't need to be in the water the whole time.
Heron flying around. They look so huge in flight. I remember when I've seen them flying, and they've got such a big wingspan. It looks like a bird of prey.
Yeah. I feel they look quite pterodactyl-like as well with their beaks.
Well, they've got this very strange profile when they fly because their stomach juts down. Almost geometrically, it's almost like a rectangle.
They sort of rest their neck back on itself so that.
Right, yeah, they're kind of.
Head forward, and then the throat and breast area is kind of like that bulge.
It's kind of like a rectangle with a beak.
Yes. And a big beak as well. So if you didn't,
Yeah.
there's a heron.
I love the way they move when they're stalking. They're so slow and deliberative, and then they just there's that they've got that deadly spear on the front of their face. They just go pop down and grab a fish.
You mentioned about birds of prey being quite interesting to you.
Yeah, we like birds of prey.
Have you had any, particular experiences you'd like to describe?
Well, I saw one in London actually. That was quite exciting. We were walking past this tiny, not even park, just like small square of grass near to where we're living in Crystal Palace, and there were all these pigeons just kind of hanging around. And I was like, that's a bit strange. They've just sort of stood there, and there's no people feeding them. And then I realised one of the birds wasn't a pigeon. And as I looked a bit closer, it was I think it was a sparrowhawk, or it could have been something like a sparrowhawk, but it was about the way, it was a small bird of prey, and it was holding a pigeon in its claws. And as I got a bit closer, the pigeons flew off, and then this bird flew off carrying a pigeon in its talons. And I was just like, wow, that's nice. That's 5 minutes from my house.
Should we stop for a moment?
Oh yeah.
Only because I want to just double check the area around here.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That sounds exactly like a sparrowhawk. They will take pigeons, and sometimes you'll come across on the ground a pile of feathers, and that will be where a sparrowhawk has had prey there.
Oh,
and
interesting.
There'll just be like a big pile of feathers where it's just plucked them all before eating the bird. So I stopped us here just for a moment because there's lots of seed heads. It's a little bit of rough ground with grasses that have gone to seed. And I just wanted to have a little look around and see if we had anything like goldfinches or any other small birds nearby. I've got a pigeon.
There's a pigeon. Oh, is that
a wood pigeon?
It's a wood pigeon, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so
they're
something a little bit
They're a bit more handsome. They don't look like spilled oil.
Although they do have iridescent green and purple patches on their neck behind but it's not quite the same. I understand what you're saying about seeing a grey bird with.
Well, they make it sound like an owl, or what I thought was like an owl. I remember when I was a kid, when my parents, I'd heard this, they kind of go, woo, woo, woo. And I was like, oh, we've got an owl in the tree. And they're like, no, it's a wood pigeon.
Yeah.
It's a little disappointing. But they make a nice sound. It's nice to feel like there's an owl nearby, isn't it? Oh, I did see an owl. I saw, we were walking through this is in the United States, we were walking through a park, and I was hoping to see some birds. We saw these turkey vultures flying around in a big pack, which was quite intimidating and quite exciting. And then it was getting towards dusk, and we came out of this, is this a swearing podcast? It's not a swearing podcast.
I can edit it out.
Okay. We came out of these woods, and on the tree, 30 feet away, was what looked like a huge eagle owl. And I went, swear word! It's an eagle owl! Just because I was so surprised, and it got startled and flew away.
Oh no!
But it was very beautiful.
Oh wow!
For the few seconds before I scared it off by swearing at it in excitement.
There's a few owl types that I would love to see. We've seen a barred owl in Nova Scotia. We've been to Canada.
Is that like a barn owl?
No, it's I suppose it's a bit more like it's quite a large owl actually. It's grey with darker bars.
Oh, bar or B-A-R-R-E-D, not like Shakespeare owl.
Yeah, that'd be good. No, sorry, barred as in having bars on it. But one thing I really want to see, and we did see one briefly as we were going past in a taxi when we were leaving Buenos Aires, name drop, is a burrowing owl.
Are they very little?
Yes, they're tiny.
I think we saw them at the side of the road. We were in Patagonia, and this place called what's the name of the place? It's a peninsula, Valdez Peninsula.
Oh wow!
And they have the wildlife there is incredible. It's a really kind of dusty, scrubby, dirt roady place. There's not much in the way of foliage and stuff, but there's so many animals there. There's rheas and guanacos, which are little llamas, and they were along the side of the road. There were these little tiny owls.
Wow!
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, I really want to see it. Patagonia is one of those on the bucket list.
That's lovely, I recommend it.
And isn't that area the area where the orcas come up onto the beach?
Yeah, that's exactly where it was, but we were there the wrong time of year, so we didn't see it. So we saw live seals, which is less exciting than...
Well, it's preferable in some respects.
It's nice to see a seal fighting a whale.
Yeah, no, it's dramatic to see.
But back to birds.
Yes.
I sent you a photograph of I think it was a harrier. It's just a head of a bird of prey, and that was in Patagonia. That was further south in Patagonia. And I think the reason it was so still and I could get quite close to it and get a picture was that it was nesting. So we didn't bother it for very long. We just got the photo and then got out of the way.
Yeah.
But that was really beautiful. Yeah.
We have a lot of calling birds in the tree here. Quite high pitched. Are you able to? Can you hear those?
Oh yeah.
So
I can hear stuff coming from over there. Is it coming from here? Or?
Yeah, so I think they're going to be around here. So there's long-tailed tits up here. There you go.
Oh,
See that fly through with a long tail?
Yeah.
So there'll be a family group of long-tailed tits. They travel in quite large flocks. They go from tree to tree to tree. So there you go.
Oh, I see.
And there's quite a lot of them, but you can hear them. So they have quite a high-pitched call, and they do a sort of chat noise as well. And sometimes in the flocks, especially this time of year, other tits will join the flocks, and so you may get coal tits, blue tits and great tits all together in the flock.
Do they not mind?
No, it's something that they do this time of year. They're just all clustered together. They're all going to the same food sources. It's like protection against predators.
Oh, interesting.
Just something they do. Now, something I wanted to point out here, as we get up here.
Coot's making
this black and white bird on the shore there. It's preening.
Yeah, what is that?
That is an eider duck. And
an eider duck? Is that where
a sea duck. So they are ones that you would see off the coast of Scotland, off the coast of Norway.
And do they use the feathers for beds and things?
Yes,
cushions,
they
not
did.
For beds.
Yeah, that's where eider down comes from.
Yeah. I can't really see what its face looks like.
There's a female just sitting down a bit.
Oh.
Now, what's really interesting about those, we'll get closer so you can get a better view, but what's really interesting is they have a really sloping forehead, and the beak comes off that slope. So where ducks, like mallard ducks, have like a rounded head and then the duck bill.
Yeah.
These have a very sort of wedge-shaped
wow.
head. Yeah. So actually, we've got great tit there. So that one's a great tit with the large dark stripe down the front of the body. Mm-hmm. These are all long-tailed tits. Those very tuneful, high calls.
Oh yeah.
And you can get flocks of like 30 or 40 birds. So and they'll be moving through the trees. So a couple will move and then more will come through.
Oh, what's that?
That was the Coot. Or Moorhen, sorry. Let's just see if I can get some.
Oh, hello.
There's one.
That's nice.
Very long tail.
Yeah.
Delicate little face. Tiny, tiny beak.
Yeah, really little. I'll put that picture of this one. Let's have a look on this chart.
There's the European eider that we just saw, and there's the tufted that we saw.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Off the
Barrow's Golden Eye. Sounds like a Bond movie, doesn't it? Smew. It's funny how birds come by their names, isn't it? Some of them are just presumably named after the person that spotted them first of all.
So there I showed you earlier about the mute swan, and they've got the bulbous black carrier.
Oh.
And then there's the hooper swan next to it, which has got
quite
the
different,
yellow beak
aren't they?
without you don't tend to see those as often. I think they come over as winter visitors.
Got you.
So because they didn't have the Egyptian goose on here, I was starting to worry that I'd got it wrong. However...
Should I Google it?
Well, I've got it on the app, actually. So
right, yeah.
And we can look at the bird and say, oh yeah, no, definitely it is.
Are those white geese over there?
Yeah, so I think that they
Ross's goose.
There's a Ross's goose. We'll have a look and see if that's what they are.
I sound really knowledgeable, but I'm just looking at the chart.
No, absolutely. Oh, well, hi, you can sound knowledgeable.
I need to play this some... I need to persuade my wife that I'm not terrible at identifying birds.
Does it matter though?
Well, I think it matters to her.
Oh no! Oh right. So she feels that you need to be able to identify.
But she gets very irritated when I'm like, "Oh, is that a?" And she's like, "No, it's a crow."
So she knows her birds quite well.
I think she knows when I get it wrong.
Okay.
So, like a lot of the time, we have got a little bit hooked on American road trips. And a lot of the time you're driving like on the, in the countryside in America. It's often very open road, and you see this. So
I'm just going to show you now.
Oh yeah, that is an Egyptian goose.
So
that is an Egyptian goose.
They've absolutely got the spot and the pink feet, the eyes. So that's definitely what we've been seeing.
So when you're on a road trip in the US, driving on the open road, and you see a bird from a long way off, and you go, "Oh, that looks exciting," and a lot of the time it's just a crow. So I don't know. Like, are American crows bigger than British crows?
They are different. There's actually a variety of crows as well.
Yeah,
it's not
of
just
course.
Crow.
But some of them are huge. Like, again, like some of them are the size of.
Don't forget, there's ravens as well.
Oh, is a raven bigger than a crow?
Yeah. And here,
I thought it was the other way
you
around.
don't see ravens very often.
Apart from
here,
at the Tower of London.
They tend to be either the Tower of London or in hilly, remote areas like in Wales or in Scotland, or you'll see them in Cornwall, in the West Country. But they tend to be a bird of rocks and high places and coasts.
Right.
In America and Canada, ravens are far more common.
Well, maybe it's a raven we've been seeing. I thought we were seeing crows, but they have a big wingspan, those crows, and especially from a long way off. A lot from a long way off, you can't.
That's the long-tailed
hawk. From a long way off, you can't necessarily judge distance. So you could be looking at like a small vulture or a big crow, but because you can't quite tell how far away they are. And as you get closer, you're like, well, like a vulture's wings are a little thinner.
Yeah.
Or an eagle.
That you can tell the difference between a raven and a crow. Mm-hmm. Okay. A raven has what you'll find. So they have got.
Are those ravens you're showing me?
Yeah, these are ravens.
Yeah, I've definitely seen those all over the shop.
This is the diagnostic. A raven has a wedge-shaped tail, like a diamond.
Oh, okay. Almost like a bird of prey.
And so there's only a few birds of prey that have got actually a diamond-shaped tail. So there's a lammergeier vulture, which is found in Europe. It's quite rare, but they have reintroduced them to Europe. And they have a beautiful wedge-shaped tail. But normally, and there's wedge-tailed eagles in Australia, which you might have seen.
I think I have seen those, but you're right. But normally they're more like a trapezium.
Yeah, normally it's
trapezium, like a wedge.
Like a triangle.
Yeah. But not like a diamond.
No. So the wedge-tailed eagle has a diamond-shaped tail.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the raven, our raven and the American ravens have a wedge or a diamond. I like to say diamond shape because what's different is when a crow.
What does a crow look like?
Right, a crow. So if we go to similar species and go to American crow, so they've got a fan-shaped tail, but that's not diamond-shaped. So fan shape is like a fan.
Oh, you know what? I think all this time
diamond, it kind of has it goes more to. They call it wedge-shaped because it goes more to a point, almost like a pointed thing.
The body.
If it looks like a diamond tail.
You know what? So this is bad news because all this time I've been misidentifying birds of prey as like seeing what I thought was a crow. And then thinking, that's a bird of prey, getting close and then going, no, it's a crow. Actually, I haven't even identified that correctly. It was actually a raven.
Possibly.
I have to make sure that Helen doesn't listen to this podcast. She's going to, I thought I was going to come on and build up my knowledge, and I'm actually just demonstrating my layers of ignorance.
No, but haven't you just demonstrated?
Well,
now you know, so you can look back at any photos.
I think it's a raven. Let's say a corvid rather than a bird of prey, because there's, that is.
That's fair enough.
But from a long way off, when you're driving, hands on the steering wheel,
they've got very broad wings, very large birds.
They're big birds,
and they, they circle on thermals, do all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, they have that kind of soaring behaviour, right? They're also really confident. I remember seeing them at like a tourist attraction, and there was one just stood like on a picnic bench waiting for people to feed it. Yeah. And it's this big bird just like hanging out with human beings.
Well, and you'll know with corvids that they are actually very intelligent. And they can work out problems. They can problem solve. So anyway, I feel like we're probably coming to the end of what we can see here. I hope you found it interesting. I wish I'd been able to show you some more of the maybe some birds of prey. I know they have some. There's definitely peregrines in London. I don't know that they would be here.
I don't see many birds of prey in London. I've seen them in other cities. We were talking about, in Asia. There's tons of black kites.
Yeah.
I saw, not enormous, but maybe half a dozen, in this little, one of the sort of suburbs of Hong Kong. And I've seen, in Oakland, there's I think a red-tailed hawk that just, flies over there. And tons of, turkey vultures in California as well, in the cities. We saw some in Malibu when I was in LA recently. I went up to Malibu. There's an area there where they've created boardwalks out, and they've got wetlands for turkey vultures are flying around, and actually some egrets or egrets are in the trees there. That was what I was going to say earlier about the herons, that they nest in trees. So yes, actually, if you walk down the Thames, I remember being down towards Richmond. And you sit in a pub in Richmond and you can see the herons in the trees on the other side of the river. It's really pretty.
Right.
they just seem such an ungainly bird.
Yeah, why would you nest in a tree? It's a really high risk strategy. Yeah, I really like. I mean, I do really like seeing them in these sorts of birds in urban areas as well.
Have you been up to Scotland at all?
Yeah.
So Mull is really good for the sea eagles.
Weren't that successful? I was hoping to see some, and I didn't really see any. Did you go on a boat trip?
No, we saw them. We were on the land, but
they have golden eagles.
Yeah, and
around there as well too.
So I have seen golden eagles before, but on that particular trip, I actually saw one reasonably close by because we were on a hillside, and it had flown across the valley, and then it flew up past us on the hillside, and it was the first time that I had seen the beautiful cinnamon-coloured head feathers, so that I knew it was a golden eagle, sort of head and neck with this beautiful goldeny cinnamon colour, and I could see it really clearly.
I have seen bald eagles. That was exciting.
Where did you see yours?
Once in Oregon, a couple of them flying over along the coastline, and once in Vancouver, where there was one just sitting in a tree. I had a nest in a tree, like in downtown Vancouver.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and people just go, "Oh yeah, there's a bald eagle there." It's amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Anyway, thank you very much for appearing on the show.
Oh, thanks for
really
the bird walk. Yeah, it's been lovely.
Going around and walk, and I've learned loads. So
good. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try really hard not to forget it, and just slightly up my bird categorisation.
Well, what I would suggest is focus on a couple that you feel like you can get to know, so you can then wow Helen.
Or raven, that's a good one.
Yes, absolutely.
So I've learned that.
So looking out for that tail, and it might be worth looking back at your photographs.
I've got a really easy win because I can just be like, when someone says, "Oh, that's a swan," I can be like, "No, that's a mute swan," and I just look really, really intelligent.
Either that, or one of those annoying people like me going, "No, actually, you'll find that that's such and such." But definitely, you can tell the difference between an eider and a mallard.
Yeah. I definitely can.
And you can definitely now know what an Egyptian goose looks like.
Yeah.
The other thing you've also seen today are the black-headed gulls that are in their winter plumage with the black spot, and they're quite small.
They're little ones.
And then the herring
gulls, and they look a bit kind of brown and speckly at the moment because they're not...
Well, they're immature, so as I say, they take 4 years to get to their adult plumage. So the adult plumage is bright white with silver grey wings. They've got the yellow beak with the red spot on, and they're the classic ones that you see at the seaside.
Eating chips. Yeah. Oh God, one ate my ice cream. I was in, what was the place called? A place to the south of Sydney. And I went to an ice cream shop, and on the thing it said, "Be careful of the birds." And I was like, okay. And I bought my ice cream. And I literally walked away, like 5 steps, took a bite, and a gull swooped in, like decapitated my ice cream, like so it kind of cut off above the level of my hand where I was gripping it. And then like another, I'm going to say like 15 or 20, like, gulls like swept in and ate this decapitated bit of. That's another reason I hate gulls, because one pooed in my eye, and another one and a big gang of gull bullies like decapitated and ate my ice cream. And I was just left with this like crushed ice cream that I'd kind of grabbed in my hands.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's really sad.
I apologise on behalf of the bird kind everywhere.
Gulls are my enemies, I think.
Well, we've been very lucky today that none have tried to attack you while I've been talking to you.
They can try.
There's still time, I guess. Oh, that's really sad.
They're monsters.
So you've got a podcast yourself?
I do. I do a podcast with my friend Sam Pay, and we talk about every Tom Waits song in chronological order. We are 3 years into the project and less than halfway.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
It's ridiculous. We have guests on, and it's a funny one because it is a show that sort of probably will largely be listened to by people who already like and know Tom Waits' music. But we try very hard to make it not just for those people. That if you're new to it and you just want to understand a bit about the context of the biography or the musicians or any of that stuff. It's not super. We try not to be super nerdy. We have a guest on, and often the guest is just someone that likes music. It doesn't have to be a Tom. Often they're not a Tom Waits expert. We just want to get their reaction to the music, and it's been really fun. We've been kind of keeping that going while we've been travelling around the world. So I've been Skyping my co-host from a completely different time zone. It'll be midnight where he is and 8 o'clock in the morning where I am. But somehow we kept it going, which is pretty exciting.
What's the name of that show?
It's called Song by Song, and you can find it at songbysongpodcast.com, and we're on Twitter, Song by Song Podcast, Facebook, Song by Song Show.
I'll put all the links in the show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, cool.
So people can find that if they want to find it more. Your wife Helen has a podcast as well.
Yeah, she does a podcast called The Illusionist, which is about language. So yeah, that's at theillusionist.org. And I work on that show. I make the music. And we're actually doing some live shows this winter. So we'll be in Bristol and Dublin at the end of the month. And we're doing the US tour and a couple of dates in Canada, which will happen in October and November. So come along, tickets still available. Illusionist.org/events is the place for that if you want to come and see us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time today.
No,
Martin.
thanks for having me. This is lovely.
I really enjoyed walking around the park with you. So that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the walk with Martin, and he was clearly interested in the birds that we saw, except the pigeons. Do listen to Martin's show, which you can find wherever you download podcasts, or at songbysongpodcast.com. And follow Martin on Twitter at songbysongpod and on Facebook at songbysongshow. I'd love to know what birds you've seen this week. Join our Facebook group to discuss this week's episode, or post your photos of the birds you've seen. I really do enjoy hearing your tales, so come and join the conversation there. Find us at facebook.com/groups/Casual Birder Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Casual Birder Pod or on Instagram at Casual Birder Podcast. And you can email me at casualbirderpod@gmail.com. Make sure you don't miss any episodes by subscribing to the show. Subscribing is free and you can do it wherever you listen to the show. And if you like the show, please consider telling others about it on Facebook or Twitter. Thank you to Randy Braun for designing the artwork for the show. The theme music is Short Sleeve Shirt by the Drones. Thanks to them for letting me use it. And check out their website at www.dronesmusic.net. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you'll join me again for another episode of the Casual Birder Podcast.